We all want love. It's one of our most basic human needs. But what we often forget is that not all love is healthy. Not all love is real. Some of us stay in relationships not because they lift us, but because we've confused chaos with passion, control with care, and insecurity with affection. Toxic love is sneaky. It doesn't always start with shouting or pain. Sometimes it starts with intensity that feels like a dream. Fast, fiery, all-consuming. Now there's a difference between someone loving you deeply and someone wanting to own you completely. Toxic love demands constant proof. It says, if you really loved me, you'd do this. Real love doesn't need to be proven over and over. It just is. It gives you space to breathe, not rules to follow. Toxic love makes you shrink. You start editing yourself, second-guessing your words, adjusting your truth to avoid conflict. Real love allows you to expand. It makes room for your flaws, your growth, your honesty. It doesn't need perfection, it needs presence. You know you're in toxic love when you start confusing jealousy for attention. When control is masked as concern. When silence becomes a punishment instead of a moment of reflection. In toxic love, the highs are addictive, but the lows are soul-crushing. Real love is steady, not boring, steady. It doesn't need to make you chase. It doesn't pull you in and push you away. It stays. It listens. It grows with you. It shows up even on the hard days, especially on the hard days. Here's the hard truth. Love that makes you question your worth is not love. Love that isolates you, confuses you, or breaks you down in the name of passion is not love. It's possession. It's fear. It's toxicity disguised as devotion. And when you finally experience real love, the kind that doesn't raise its voice to feel powerful, that doesn't walk out when things get uncomfortable, you'll understand that love was never meant to hurt this much. It was meant to heal. Toxic love often disguises itself as intensity. It shows up with loud declarations, grand expectations, and a constant need for reassurance. On the surface, it looks passionate, fiery even, but underneath, it's a constant demand, a pressure, a test you never really pass. It says, if you love me, prove it. And the proofs are endless. Change how you dress. Stop talking to certain friends. Always answer the phone. Give up your dreams, your boundaries, your identity, all in the name of love. But love that demands proof at every turn is not love. It's fear wrapped in dependency. When someone constantly needs validation of your love, it's not because they cherish you. It's because they don't trust you, or worse, they don't trust themselves. And they believe control is the way to hold things together. So they push you, they test you, they demand things not because they want to grow with you, but because they're afraid of losing you. And instead of working on their fears, they make them your responsibility. Real love doesn't need to be proven in that way. It doesn't ask you to compromise your essence. It doesn't expect you to bend until you break. Real love encourages. It says, I see who you are. I believe in you. I'm with you. It wants to see you grow, not shrink. It supports your dreams, not stifle them. It trusts without control and listens without judgment. In toxic love, encouragement feels conditional. You're only supported when it aligns with the other person's comfort zone or when it doesn't threaten their insecurities. But in real love, encouragement is consistent even when things are tough, even when growth is uncomfortable. Real love celebrates your individuality. It pushes you to become more, not for them, but for you. In toxic dynamics, there's always this underlying pressure that love must be earned. You're constantly walking on eggshells, wondering if today you're enough, if you've done enough to be loved, appreciated, accepted. It becomes a full-time job, managing someone else's emotions, reassuring their ego, proving your loyalty, tiptoeing around their insecurities. But love isn't a transaction. It's not earned like a paycheck. It's given. And real love is offered freely. Not without effort, but without condition. When love encourages, you feel it in your bones. You're not afraid to speak your truth. You're not terrified of being misunderstood. You're not constantly proving yourself. Instead, you feel safe to be seen. You feel valued not just for what you do, but for who you are. So that's what real love does. It makes room for your imperfections while holding space for your growth. Think about the moments when you've felt the most like yourself in a relationship. the moments when you didn't have to hide, edit, or perform. That's real love at work. Real love doesn't demand a version of you that's easier to manage. It invites all of you, your strength, your flaws, your past, your dreams, and says you don't have to change to be worthy. But if you want to grow, I'll be right here cheering you on. And that's the difference. Toxic love sets conditions to keep you close. Real love creates freedom, so you choose to stay. At its core, toxic love is rooted in insecurity and fear. Real love is rooted in security and trust. One controls, the other empowers. One drains you, the other fills you. One demands, the other encourages. You always know which one you're in by how you feel when you look in the mirror. Do you see someone becoming more of themselves or someone disappearing piece by piece? Control often wears the mask of care. It says, I just want what's best for you. It sounds loving, even protective. But underneath that language lies fear, and fear is the seed of toxic love. Toxic love doesn't trust, so it tries to manage everything. Your choices, your schedule, your voice, your independence. It wants certainty, not connection. In toxic love, control is disguised as concern. You hear things like, I don't like when you go out without me, or why are you talking to them so much? It's subtle at first, it seems like someone just wanting time with you, but over time, those small comments become patterns. Slowly, you start adjusting your life to avoid conflict. You stop going certain places, stop talking to certain people, stop doing what makes you feel alive, just to keep the peace. Well, it's not love, that's possession. Toxic love creates a relationship dynamic where one person's comfort comes at the cost of the other's freedom. It needs to know where you are at all times. It wants to be involved in every decision. It doesn't want you to grow unless it can control the pace and direction of that growth. And when you try to assert yourself, it gets angry. It accuses you of being distant, disloyal, or selfish. But here's the truth. Control is not a sign of love. It's a sign of fear. And where fear leads, love cannot thrive. Real love, on the other hand, is rooted in respect. It honors your autonomy. It supports your individuality. It doesn't need to own you to feel close to you. In real love, both people are whole on their own, and their connection is a choice, not a demand. When someone respects you, they trust your judgment. They don't need constant updates or explanations to feel secure. They know your life is yours, and your relationship is a partnership, not a prison. They don't try to micromanage your world. They simply want to understand it, and they encourage you to expand it. In real love, disagreement doesn't lead to domination. It leads to dialogue. You can say, I don't agree, and it doesn't start a war. You can say, I need space, and it's not taken as rejection. Respect gives room for two people to coexist with differences without trying to erase each other in the process. Toxic love operates like a mirror. It only reflects what it wants to see. It doesn't truly see you. It sees a version of you that fits within its comfort zone. And anything outside of that becomes a threat. That's why toxic love tries to shrink you. Because your independence, your confidence, your power, it makes the other person feel small. But real love doesn't feel threatened by your strength. It celebrates it. It doesn't need to control your journey. It wants to walk beside you on it. Real love says, I love who you are and I believe in who you're becoming. Control may offer short-term peace, but it breeds long-term resentment. Respect builds lasting connection. Maybe quieter, less dramatic, but it's real, it's steady. It gives you space to breathe, to grow, and to be yourself. You know you're in toxic love when you feel like you're constantly negotiating for your freedom. When love becomes a set of rules instead of a relationship. When love feels like walking on a leash instead of walking hand in hand. And you know you're in real love when you feel safe to say no. Safe to disagree. Safe to be fully you. Without fear that it'll all fall apart. Because real love doesn't just want you close, it wants you free. And that's what makes it worth holding on to. Insecurity is the silent force that drives toxic love. It doesn't always yell or accuse. Sometimes it whispers doubts, questions, and fears that slowly eat away at the relationship. In toxic love, insecurity is always present. It questions your loyalty, mistrusts your intentions, and needs constant reassurance just to feel safe. It's a love that clings, not because it's strong, but because it's scared. Toxic love doesn't allow for emotional breathing room. Every delay in a text reply becomes suspicious. Every moment of silence feels threatening. Insecurity begins to dictate the terms of the relationship, what you say, who you spend time with, how much attention you give, and even how you express love. It's an exhausting cycle where nothing is ever quite enough to convince the other person they are safe in your love. In toxic love, you can be completely committed and still be accused of being distant. You can show up every day and still be told you're not doing enough. Because the issue isn't your love, it's their fear. And no amount of love can fix what someone refuses to heal within themselves. Real love, on the other hand, is secure. It doesn't need to control or chase. It's not threatened by your independence or your past. In secure love, trust is the foundation, not suspicion. You're free to be yourself, to have your own thoughts, feelings, and experiences without constantly having to explain or defend them. Security in love means you can go a day without talking and not worry the relationship is falling apart. It means you can spend time with friends, pursue your passions, and still feel connected. Real love gives both people space to breathe without fearing that space will break the bond. One of the signs of a secure relationship is emotional safety. You can be vulnerable without fearing judgment or backlash. You can express concerns without it turning into an argument. You're not punished for being honest. Instead, you're met with understanding and a willingness to grow together. Insecure love thrives on control because it believes control is the only way to prevent loss. It says, if I can monitor everything, I won't get hurt. And ironically, that fear of being hurt is what causes the most damage. The tighter you hold someone out of fear, the faster they start to slip away. Secure love doesn't grip. It doesn't beg. It stands in confidence. It says, I choose you, and I trust that you choose me too. That mutual trust creates a safe environment where both people feel at peace, not constantly on edge. In toxic love, jealousy isn't a red flag. It's often normalized, even romantic. But real love doesn't romanticize insecurity. It addresses it. It doesn't make you feel guilty for having a life outside the relationship. It understands that love isn't about possession. It's about partnership. Insecurity in love can make you feel like you're always walking on emotional eggshells. Like one wrong move could cause everything to unravel. Secure love feels like standing on solid ground. There's no fear that the next word, the next silence, or the next disagreement will make it all collapse. When love is secure, you feel calm more often than you feel anxious. You feel understood more than you feel judged. You feel chosen, not because you're constantly fighting to be chosen, but because someone sees your worth and honors it. Toxic love is always on edge, afraid of losing. Real love is steady, confident in what it has. Because love should feel like home, not like a battlefield. Toxic love often operates on a reward system. Affection is given when things go right and withdrawn when they don't. It's conditional. It says, I'll love you, but only if you behave a certain way, only if you meet expectations, only if you never mess up. That kind of love feels more like a transaction than a connection. You're constantly earning love instead of receiving it freely. In toxic love, your worth is tied to your performance. You start to notice patterns. When you're easy to deal with, you get warmth, praise, attention. But the moment you express a different opinion, show emotion, or make a mistake, the love disappears. Suddenly there's coldness, distance, silence. You feel punished, even if no one says it outright. That's because toxic love doesn't love unconditionally. It loves with rules. It measures and keeps score. You find yourself walking a fine line, always trying to do or say the right thing so you don't lose the connection. But real love doesn't make you earn basic emotional safety. It doesn't disappear when things get hard. It doesn't punish vulnerability. Real love is consistent. It shows up on good days, on bad days, and every day in between. It doesn't fluctuate based on mood or circumstances. It doesn't withhold care to make a point. It's there when you're shining, and it's still there when you're struggling. Consistency in love isn't about being perfect all the time. It's about being reliable. It's about creating a foundation where both people feel secure, knowing the other won't run at the first sign of discomfort. It's the kind of love that says, even when we don't agree, I'm not going anywhere. When love is conditional, you're always questioning. You wonder if your last disagreement will be the breaking point. You wonder if you're still good enough, still lovable, still wanted. That kind of love makes you anxious. You're never fully relaxed, never fully at home. But in consistent love, you don't live in fear. You're not constantly bracing for withdrawal. You know that the relationship isn't hanging by a thread. You trust the other person's presence, not just their words. You trust that they'll show up, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's not. Toxic love often uses love as leverage. It becomes a tool to manipulate. If you really love me, you change. Or, you don't deserve my love right now. It makes you feel like love is something that can be taken away based on your behavior. It's not love, it's control. Real love doesn't manipulate, it communicates. It's not passive-aggressive. It's honest, clear, and emotionally available. When something is wrong, it doesn't disappear or become distant. It leans in, it works through things, it chooses connection over punishment. We all make mistakes. We all have moments where we fall short. In toxic love, those moments are held against you. In real love, they become moments of learning, of grace. Real love says, I see your flaws and I'm still here. Yeah. That kind of consistency is what builds trust over time. It's what allows people to be vulnerable, to take emotional risks, to grow without fear. Without consistency, love becomes unstable. It becomes something you can't rely on. And when you can't rely on love, you stop trusting it. Love isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. Over and over again. So if you find yourself constantly wondering where you stand, constantly trying to earn back affection, constantly questioning if love will still be there tomorrow, it's time to look closer. Because real love doesn't come and go. Real love stays. Toxic love struggles to admit when it's wrong and avoids accountability at all costs, even when the truth is clear. It shifts blame, deflects, and points fingers. Every issue somehow becomes your fault. Your reaction, your tone, your timing. Toxic love doesn't seek understanding, it seeks escape. It's more concerned with being right than being responsible. When love is toxic, apologies are rare or worse, they're empty. They come only after days of silence or after you've apologized first. Even then they might sound like, I'm sorry you feel that way, instead of, I'm sorry I hurt you. It's a subtle difference, but a powerful one. One avoids ownership, the other embraces it. Toxic love often operates from ego. And the ego hates being wrong. It views accountability as weakness rather than maturity. So instead of facing the discomfort of self-reflection, it lashes out, it defends, it denies. And the cycle continues, arguments unresolved, pain unacknowledged, growth avoided. But real love is built on humility. It understands that mistakes are inevitable, but how we handle them defines the relationship. Real love doesn't run from accountability, it leans into it and says, I was wrong, I didn't handle that well, let's talk about it. There's no fear in taking ownership because there's a foundation of trust. A belief that admitting fault doesn't make the love weaker, it makes it stronger. In toxic love, conversations about problems feel like battles. One person tries to be heard, while the other defends and deflects. But in real love, those conversations are bridges. They may not be easy, but they're honest. They move both people closer together, not further apart. Taking ownership doesn't mean being perfect. It means being willing to grow. Real love accepts that we all bring baggage, triggers, and blind spots into a relationship, but instead of using those as excuses, it uses them as entry points for change. It's not afraid to ask, what can I do better? Toxic love, on the other hand, is quick to say, that's just who I am, as a way to justify bad behavior. It uses personality as a shield, refusing to change or evolve. It expects understanding but gives none. It demands forgiveness but offers no repair. Real love understands that healing isn't just about saying the right words, it's about taking the right actions. When real love causes harm, it doesn't try to minimize the impact. It validates the pain, then takes real steps to do better. That's what ownership looks like. It's not about guilt, it's about growth. And toxic love, accountability feels like a threat. In real love, it feels like a responsibility. And the difference is everything. You'll know the kind of love you're in by how conflict is handled. Do you feel safe bringing up issues? Do you feel heard, or do you feel like your concerns are turned against you? Do problems get swept under the rug, or do they get worked through together? Real love doesn't avoid hard conversations. It doesn't gaslight or guilt trip. It listens, it reflects, and it adjusts. Not perfectly, but intentionally. We all make mistakes. We all have moments where we fall short. But love isn't about never messing up. It's about how we respond when we do. Avoiding accountability may protect the ego, but it damages the relationship. Taking ownership may hurt in the moment, but it builds long-term trust and respect. Because love that can't admit it's wrong will never feel safe. But love that takes responsibility creates the space where real intimacy can grow. That's the difference between love that fears the truth and love that's strong enough to face it. Toxic love wears you down. It drains your energy, your joy, your confidence. Slowly, subtly, and then all at once. You start to feel like you're always running on empty, even when you're doing everything you can to make it work. You're constantly overthinking, second-guessing yourself, and bracing for the next emotional storm. Toxic love isn't just hard, it's exhausting. You may not even realize how tired you are at first, but over time, the signs show up. Your laughter becomes less frequent. Your creativity dries up. You isolate yourself from friends and family. You start to feel like a shell of the person you used to be. That's what toxic love does. It chips away at you little by little. You become more focused on surviving the relationship than growing inside it. Toxic love is chaotic. One day it's affection, the next day it's silence. One moment you're being praised, the next you're being criticized. The highs are high, but the lows are devastating. And the worst part is you start mistaking that roller coaster for passion. But love shouldn't make you feel like you're constantly walking on a tightrope. It shouldn't feel like work just to keep things from falling apart. In toxic love, emotional labor is one-sided. You're the one fixing, explaining, compromising, apologizing for things you didn't even do. You try to keep the peace to avoid conflict, to prove your loyalty. And no matter how much you give, it never seems to be enough. That constant effort, that emotional weight, it wears you out. And still, it never creates real peace. But real love is different. Real love nourishes you. It fills your cup instead of emptying it. It feels like exhaling after holding your breath for too long. It brings a sense of calm, not chaos. You feel energized, not drained, inspired, not diminished. Real love is a safe place. It's where you can let your guard down and be yourself without fear of being punished for it. It supports your well-being emotionally and mentally. It doesn't demand constant reassurance. It doesn't feed on drama. It gives you space to breathe, to rest, to recharge. When you're in a healthy relationship, love becomes your fuel. It helps you face the world with more strength, not less. It encourages you to chase your dreams. It brings clarity, not confusion. You're not afraid of saying the wrong thing or being misunderstood or being left for having a bad day. Real love doesn't make you shrink. It helps you grow. You don't have to play games to keep someone's attention. You don't have to sacrifice your peace just to keep someone from walking away. You're allowed to be human, and you're loved through it. You know the love is toxic when it becomes a job, a burden, a source of constant emotional tension. You dread conversations, you censor your thoughts, you feel like you're always trying to keep things from falling apart. That's not love. That's survival. But when love is real, it restores you. You feel lighter after spending time with the person you love. You feel seen, not just looked at. You feel heard, not just responded to. You feel valued, not just tolerated. Real love isn't perfect, but it's consistent. It nurtures, it listens, it stays, it gives more than it takes. And most of all, it brings peace to your spirit. You'll know it's real love when it doesn't drain your light, but adds to it. When it feels like home, not a battlefield. When it doesn't just keep you going. It helps you come alive.